Got it. Great changeup from Berrios, 2 down.
The Blue Jays make their first move of the offseason, re-signing trade deadline acquisition Jose Berrios for a 7-year, $131 million deal. I'm joined by Kaitlyn McGrath to break it all down. Kaitlyn, thank you so much for taking the time. Let's start with some low-hanging fruit. What are the reactions you're hearing to the Jose Berrios signing?
Yeah, I think the reaction is all very positive. Obviously, this was a pitcher that the Blue Jays liked. That's why they went out and got him at the trade deadline. And, at the time when that trade was made, it was a pretty substantial trade. It cost a lot. They sent two top prospects back the Twins' way. And so it was a pretty hefty price they paid for Berrios. But he pitched really well with Toronto. He gelled really well with the organization, and he looked to fill a really essential role in the rotation as this sort of solid number 2 guy that you can rely on every fifth day to go out there and pitch well. And so the fact that they traded for him, they always knew that he was going to be back this upcoming season because he had 1 year left to control. But now the trade looks so much better because you're getting him for 7 more years. Obviously, you're paying him for over those years, but the trade looks a lot better now because you've got a guy for long term as opposed to just giving up two young players for a year and a half of him.
What does this mean for the Jays organization, though, that he re-signed so quickly after only having been with them for a few months?
Yeah, I think it's a positive reflection on the organization. Obviously, when they traded for him, they sort of hoped that this would be the outcome. They hoped that he would stay with them long term. But you know what? Every pitcher, every player in the major leagues sort of earns the right to get to free agency. And, after 6 or 7 years of playing, they can go to free agency and see what's out there. But after basically 2 months of being with the Blue Jays organization, Berrios liked it well enough to say, this is where I want to be long term. I don't even have to go to market after next season and see what else is out there because I want to be with this club. And so, that speaks to the organization. That also speaks to presumably the direction the organization is going in terms of building a winner. Obviously, they did not get to the ultimate goal last season, but they were, 1 win off of getting to where they wanted to be. They were very close. And so I think that him signing so quickly, basically foregoing free agency next year, just kind of signals that, he's pretty optimistic about where the team's going. And I think the fact that he signed makes the organization sort of optimistic about their long-term picture too.
Do you think this re-signing has any implications on the re-signing of Marcus Semien or Robbie Ray?
I don't think so, just because if you look at sort of the term and the deal, you break down the $131 million and how it breaks down is you look at $11 million for next year. He was going to make around $11 million if you look at the arbitration value that he was kind of due to be paid. And then after that, it's about $20 million per year. And that's a pretty fair market value for a pitcher of his caliber. That's what teams would sort of expect to pay. So that amount won't surprise the Blue Jays. And the fact that they've done it so early kind of signals that they're giving themselves that sort of cost certainty and saying, we know we're going to have this on the books for this many years. And so how can we fit these other guys? And let me tell you, the team, the organization is, in front of all these whiteboards right now, probably mapping out what they can spend, what they can pay. They've got it all mapped out. And so I don't think this deal signals that they aren't going to make even more deals. I think they still have the money. Their roster is built around still a lot of young, sort of cost-friendly players. And I also think that, again, going back to your earlier question about what this says about the organization, is that when prospective free agents see the Blue Jays going out there, signing a guy like Berrios, seeing a guy like Berrios come to the organization and immediately want to stay there, I think that just signals that, obviously the Blue Jays are building something that players want to be a part of. And so I think that's also a good, a good thing that they can point to free agents and say, look what we've already done.
Just going back to Robbie Ray, though, and Marcus Semien, what are you hearing about them? And do you think that their deals may be impacted by the CBA deadline December 1st, which is coming up really quickly?
Yeah, I mean, all along, the Blue Jays have been interested in, bringing back Robbie Ray and Marcus Semien. They were huge parts of the success of last season. I'll also add Steven Matz to that as well. Not as high caliber of a season as those two, but also very respectable season and a guy that they'd like to have back. And so they're interested in bringing all those guys back. I think that what they've done so far doesn't sort of prohibit them from making those moves. And in terms of the CBA, I mean, it's hard to say. I think we've seen a few deals now trickle out. And the baseball season generally is pretty slow moving, or the baseball offseason, I should say, is generally pretty slow moving. So this isn't really out of the ordinary. I think with the deadline coming up, there's sort of some thinking that we might see a few more guys that maybe want that certainty, try and get their deals done before that deadline.
So much happening, and it's hard to believe that December 1st is in like 15 minutes. Spring training is going to be right around the corner. Thank you so much for breaking it down with me. It's a pleasure to talk shop with you, Kaitlyn.
No problem. Thanks for having me.